So, and you know, you can paint with all these channels, and you can go over here and make changes. So if I want to go in here and make this blue or purple, let's say, go ahead and close that. Or if I click this and then click on this little color picker, you can go through and click and drag, and just go grab another color in there. It'll go ahead and pick that color. Our roughness, let's go ahead and just do right in the middle, and our metallic, let's just keep it all the way black, so non-metallic. So I'm going to go over here and paint a pink plastic, a pink dull, kind of dull plastic. And if I go ahead and crank that roughness down, that'll be shiny. If I crank that roughness up, that'll be really dull. So all through here you have available these brushing abilities for you to brush on channels. But you'll remember when we were in Substance Designer, we were able to assign materials to different parts of our object. And in Substance Painter, it's even more powerful. In Substance Designer, we're kind of limited to just assigning materials to our material IDs, which absolutely we will do. In Substance Painter, what you can also do is assign it to faces, groups of faces, non-vert welded parts of your object, as well as UV shells. So we'll get into that. And the first thing we also went into in Substance Designer was creating your own materials. So let's go ahead, and this is a paint layer. So we're not really painting with a material. I mean, we're creating our own material and then painting with that material. But you can also go ahead and fill your object with an entire material. And then, like I said, assign it to different pieces of your object. So let's go ahead and do that. In order to do that, I am not going to use what we call a plain Jane layer, that little plus sign that adds a layer. We're not going to use that. So I'm going to go ahead and click minus, and that'll get rid of those layers here. And what I am going to use is a fill layer. Now if I click this little add a fill layer here, you're going to see it adds a fill layer, and it's not filled with anything yet. Well, you can fill it with a material, and you can make your own materials here. So if I want to make a red, I'm going to click red here on my base color. I'm going to make it pretty rough, so it's pretty shiny, and I'm going to make it non-metallic. So I just made that quickly kind of a shiny red plastic. If you want to use the Substance Designer materials that come with Substance Designer, you can go ahead and click through here, and if you want to do a search, we can do metal, and we can just grab a metal in here, and we'll just grab this painted steel. I'm going to click. Actually, you don't even have to click and drag. Just with a fill layer selected, if you tap on a material, it'll go ahead and fill your layer with that material. Now, there's a couple options in here. Let's go ahead and choose a material that's a little bit more obvious here. Let's do, there we go, metal dumpster. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit. If so, we've got this fill layer here, and if we want to go ahead and name it, we can. We can just do like call it base metal. Just double click. And you got a couple options in here. UV projection and triplanar projection we'll get into in just a second. But you got UV scale down here, and this little lock is turned on, so that just means it's going to scale uniformly. So I can go ahead and scale this way down, scale it way up, and that looks good enough. UV offset, UV rotation, and because this was created, and I'm assuming Substance Designer, you can actually go into Substance Designer like we were doing, create your own materials, export those as SBSARs, and then have them load up into Substance Painter. So you can go ahead and make all your fancy materials, and like we were doing in our Substance Designer tutorial, exposing parameters to your end user to play with. So now this has a couple of them. You have a random seed, so you can kind of just, looks like you can click this thing and have it randomly seed your material here. You've got color, so you can go through here and change the color of your metal. And you've also got roughness, so you can change the roughness of the material here. Let's go ahead and choose, let's say, metal 06. There we go. So we've got like a dark metal in here, and we can change the UV scale. Now metal 06 has a lot of different parameters. You can do all these hue shifts and luminosities, the normal format if you want, how many scratches, how dirty it is, the metal color. So a lot of cool things you can play with. I'm going to go ahead and make this a little bit, there we go. So we'll just call this base metal, and we'll keep going. So let's say I want to have, this is my base metal, and I also want to have a light metal on top of this that I want to put on other pieces. So what I'm going to do is just click a fill layer. We'll call this light metal, and I can go in here and choose a light metal and play with its options. If it's just going to be something simple, I can also go in here, give it just an off, maybe just a little off-white color, play with the roughness a little bit. Let's make it pretty shiny. Let's make it super metallic. And yeah, it looks pretty good. One thing you will notice is we are getting height information through our light metal. So if I turn this off, you're going to see those scratches match up perfectly with the original base metal. That's because by default, if I click in here and go to height, you're going to see it's set to linear dodge. Now, what did I just do? Just like we have our channels over here, base color, height, roughness, and metallic, and just like when we were playing with our brush options and we had color, height, roughness, and metal to kind of paint with, I also have this fill layer, which has all the channels available to us that are turned on, color, height, roughness, and metallicity. Because I can do all that, and we're in a layer system up here, I can actually click through each one of these channels and change all of them individually. So if I go to my base color and change this opacity down, it's going to get rid of my light white base color and kind of fade opacity to the underlying base metal color. Also, if I go to height, that's a bad example. Let's go to roughness. If I change this opacity down, I'm changing the roughness only of my light metal to match the underlying roughness of the base metal, because I'm essentially just getting rid of the roughness channel by taking it to 0. Or I can mix them a little bit by going like 50%. But one thing I don't want to mix is my height. Right now it's set to linear dodge, so it's kind of blending through my light metal, which doesn't really have any height information itself. So if I click that off and just look at my light metal, see how shiny and just clean looking it is? It has no height information really. So what I'm going to do with this height is change it from a linear dodge. Let's turn our base metal back on. Change it from linear dodge blending mode to something like normal or replace. Once I do that, that is going to make sure that the underlying height information is being replaced by my light metal. Just something you might run into. And then, roughness and metallic we've already talked about. So I'm going to go back to base color, and we've got our light metal over our base metal completely. So if I turn this off, all the channels of that light metal, color, height, roughness, and metallicity, are going to be turned off, and all I'm going to see is my base metal. If you cycle through, for example, we were talking about height. See that height information in there? If I turn light metal on, no more height information. It's just black. Cycling through, you can kind of see how simple the light metal is, and the dark metal has a little bit more going on for it. So let's hit M to go back to our shaded view here, and let's talk about how to break these materials up.